Yes, are you ready?
Yes, Chair.
Okay.
Chair, before I proceed today, there are just a few things that I need to clarify from yesterday's evidence with Mr. Fenter. Mr. Fenter, the first issue that I wish to clarify is that in your evidence yesterday, you said there were about 600 people at Premier's office in the Free State. I want to understand, what do these people do?
Chairperson, they are employees which are occupying posts in the structure which consists of the 4 programs that I alluded to yesterday. As I've indicated, that there is a significant number of community development workers in the department who are attached to program 4, and those community development workers are distributed in municipalities. The ideal position is 1 per ward, but we don't have sufficient funds to fill all the vacant posts, but that is basically a link between the community and the department through program 4 and the intervention unit in program 4, to which I also referred yesterday.
Okay. And is this historical, or it only became a case when program 4 was introduced?
Chair, it's difficult for me to remember. The community development workers were previously housed in the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs. And the intervention unit was in the Office of the Premier in Program 3, which consisted of both policy and planning and monitoring and evaluation. Those 2 functions were separated at a certain point in time, specifically because the one program can't monitor and evaluate the same program. So the idea was to create a separate program who can independently also monitor the other 3 programs in the Office of the Premier.
Okay. And the other issue that I wanted to clarify with you is the issue of the department giving the Office of the Premier, or using the Office of the Premier when they need to draft contracts. I want to understand, do different departments in the province have their own legal advisors or legal departments?
Yes, Chairperson, only the Department of Sports, Arts, Culture and Recreation does not have in-house or their own legal advisors. All the other departments do have their own legal advisors.
Yes. And what sort of or type of contracts then get to be drafted by your office, and which contracts do they draft themselves?
Chairperson, there was a directive in 2010 that all contracts should be submitted to the Office of the State Law Advisors in the Office of the Premier for the reasons that I alluded to yesterday, which I think prompted at least part of that decision. But for instance, if it's a repetitive contract, if I can perhaps refer to a lease agreement, which is a standard agreement, and it's basically just a small set of information in that agreement that differs from lease to lease. It is not necessary to be referred to us unless significant changes are required.
Okay. And yesterday when we parted, you were dealing with the opinion that you gave to the municipal manager for Phumelela Municipality, Mr. Moremi. In the case of municipalities, do they also have their own legal advisors? What sort of matters get referred to your office by the municipalities?
Chairperson, some of the bigger municipalities do have legal advisors, but I'm also aware that The small municipalities in the province do not have their own legal advisors, and there was an invitation to these municipalities from the Executive Council and the Premier that if they have legal problems, that it could be referred to the state law advisors, and we will assist them where we can. And we are doing it up to today.
With regard to matters that relate to departments within the provincial government which have their own legal advisors, was the need for those departments to send contracts to the legal advisors in the office of the Premier based on insufficient experience or capacity or expertise, or was the position that the legal advisors in those departments were themselves experienced people with the required expertise, but there was some other reason why they were nevertheless required to submit contracts to the legal advisors in the office of the Premier?
Chairperson, at the point in time when the directive was issued, it was my sense that there was a turnover of officials in other departments who occupied posts of legal advisors or legal administration officers, and the capacity, there were certainly capacity issues. I indicated yesterday that I personally noted signed contracts which does not protect the interests of government, or where there are clauses such as the indemnity clause which were contrary to the provisions of the Public Finance Management Act. And I raised those concerns. And I cannot say that my concerns that I raised prompted that decision. I was not part of the decision-making process before that directive was issued, but there were definitely capacity problems. It is better at this point in time, but there are also in some departments where there are definitely capacity problems. And as I've indicated, one department does not have legal advisors at all.
Who issued the directive?
Chairperson, the directive was issued by the previous Premier, Mr. Magashule. I was not present in the meeting, but it was a meeting of heads of department, accounting officers, chief financial officers, and heads of supply chain management, and it was later on confirmed in a meeting of the Executive Council.
So you say, although you were not party to the decision to issue that directive, but you say on your own you are able to say that there were certain capacity challenges, at least in regard to some departments. And from that point of view, you would have seen the directive as maybe a way of trying to assist with capacity?
That is correct, Chairperson. That is how I perceived it at that time.
Yes, okay.
And I may just mention, Chairperson, it was not an isolated incident. We have an electronic case management system through which we manage all the legal work that comes into our unit. And I checked yesterday morning, and since 2010, we handled 1,423 contracts. So it's a continuous obligation that we have.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Let's proceed. On paragraph 2.4, you talk about a further opinion or clarification that you gave to Mr. Moremi regarding...
Is that paragraph 2.4 of his affidavit?
Of your affidavit, yes. Sorry, Chair.
That is in exhibit H2.
Yes, on page 2 of that, of exhibit H2. And you attach that clarification as an annexure D. Would you please just tell us what were you saying in that clarification?
Chairperson, I assume that the legal advice that Advocate Tira provided to Mr. Muremi, the municipal manager, on the 23rd of July 2012, and I refer to Annex C to my affidavit, that was communicated to the head of department and the MEC, or either one of the two, and they sought an appointment with me to discuss it, and I met with both of them. The issue which they raised with me was the fact that they required to have access to the farm to initiate the project as soon as possible. At that point in time, the largest portion of the farm, as I understood it, were let to farmers, and those lease agreements had not expired at that time. Advocate Tira, in her opinion, paragraph 9, referred to it. That is the Annex C on AJV 29, Chairperson.
Yes.
And she referred to an email of 16 July 2012. If I remember correctly, that email alerted the department not to engage the farmers with a view to cancel those agreements. We were concerned that it may be regarded as a repudiation, that the repudiation would be accepted and there would be a claim for damages against the municipality, which we wanted to avoid at all cost. The further options that she referred to in the last paragraph of her opinion was not clarified. And when I met with the MEC and the head of the department, we discussed other options. As I've indicated in paragraph 4 of my letter, and those options were firstly that there should be a lease agreement. Instead of the company leasing the land from the municipality, the department could enter into a lease agreement with the municipality. Once the lease agreements with the farmers expired, which was not acceptable to the department because of their need to, as quickly as possible, get onto the land, or then, in order to protect the municipality, I propose that the department then enter into an agreement with the municipality in terms of which they, or which the rights and obligations of the municipality in terms of the lease agreements are assigned and ceded to the department, so that the department could engage with the farmers without any risk to the municipality. In that meeting, the head of the department was adamant that he would be able to convince the farmers to an early mutual termination of those agreements, and I was not sure exactly how we would do it, but he was convinced. And I was then requested to amplify the previous advice which Advocate Tira gave to the municipality, and I did that in this letter that I wrote to the municipal manager.
Yes, and do you know if your opinion was followed?
Chairperson, we prepared that session and assignment agreement subsequent to this, and it was provided to the department and the municipality, if I remember correctly. So there was a draft prepared.
You talk about the draft lease agreement between the Free State Department and Pumelela Local Municipality on paragraph 2.5. Of your statement, Mr.
Paragraph, sorry.
Paragraph 2.5 of your affidavit. It's on page 2.
Yeah.
Yes. Is this the agreement that was prepared in your office?
That is correct.
May I take you back to page 29? That is the letter from Advocate Tira. I see that She, I think you said it's a she, or am I
Yes,
right? Yeah,
she.
that she writes below her name, DDG Legal Services. Now, you said that your position is DDG Corporate Administration and something else.
Yeah.
Okay, but you mentioned the components of your job, and they include legal services.
Yes.
So I want to find out whether DDG Legal Services was that she was also occupying the position of DDG, but her focus was just legal services, or whether that was just meant to relate to the office which you held, because as I understand it, she reported to you.
Yes. Chairperson, I may perhaps just explain, I can understand the confusion. For a short period, she occupied the post of Chief Operating Officer in the Department of Economic Development and Environmental Affairs. And at that post was graded at Deputy Director General in that department. There was then a decision to abolish that post, and she was transferred back to our legal services component. But she retained her rank, although she occupies up to today the post of Chief Director, which is one post level below my own. But her rank is that of a Deputy Director General, and she's remunerated at that rank still.
That's confusing. On the one hand,
Yeah.
she is paid at the level of DDG, but the position she occupies and the functions of which she performs are at Chief Director level. So it's like you perform the functions. Let me make just an example of a clerk,
Yeah.
but you are paid at director's level, something like that.
Chairperson, yes. The Section 14 of the Public Service Act, which provides for a transfer, also provides that if an official is transferred to a post which is lower than the official occupies at the stage of transfer, the official will retain their benefits. That is how the Act determines it should happen, and that is why she occupies that rank.
But doesn't the Act provide for a transfer to a higher position or a lower position depending on circumstances?
Chairperson, to a lower position, in terms when you are transferred to a higher post, that must be through a selection process.
If it's to a higher position?
If it's to a higher position.
Yeah, no, but I'm talking about to an equal,
Yeah.
a position of equal level, that's fine.
Yes.
But what I'm asking is whether the Act doesn't actually also allow transfer to a lower position. And of course, I think that has to be with your consent, I take it. But the other transfer maybe also has to be with consent, but I know that in public service, at least with regard to certain departments, but maybe the whole public service, you can be transferred even without your consent if it's considered to be in the public interest or something like that.
Correct.
So therefore, it can't be that it's as if it's a transfer, you can only be transferred to an equal position. You can be transferred to a lower position as well.
That is indeed correct, Chairperson. With the retention of your benefits of the post which you occupied immediately before the transfer.
Yeah, well, I guess it's a side issue. It's a very strange thing to me
Yeah.
that your services are required at a lower position. The functions that you perform, the responsibilities are at a lower level. not at a higher level,
Yes.
but you are paid at a higher level. Now, you are not paid for the functions you perform. You are paid for functions that you don't perform.
That is the effect of that provision.
Yes.
That is the effect.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, Chair. This agreement between the Phumelela municipality and the Free State government, who are supposed...
I'm sorry, Ms. Buthelezi, I just want to complete what we're talking about. But if the position that she then occupies in your unit is that of chief director, isn't that the designation that should appear in the letters that she writes?
I totally agree with you, Chairperson, and I raised it with her.
Yes.
Yeah, it is corrected.
Not DTG.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she doesn't occupy such a position in your unit. There is
Yes.
no such position in your unit.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Chair. If we may proceed then, we're still on point 2.5 of your affidavit. If it's an agreement between the provincial government and the local municipality, who should be the signatories of that particular agreement?
The lease agreement, on behalf of the Free State provincial government, was supposed to be signed in terms of the Free State Land Administration Act by the Premier after a decision was taken in consultation with the MEC for Public Works being delegated by the Executive Council, and on behalf of the municipality by the municipal manager authorized by the council, I presume.
And I'm completing our discussion as I think about it, what we were talking about just now, about the position for Ms. Tira. It seems that actually legally it's quite risky for her to use a position that doesn't exist in the unit, because if as chief director she has powers to make certain decisions, and she is required to make those decisions as chief director, and she makes those decisions and writes DDG Legal Services, a position that doesn't exist, somebody who is adversely affected by that decision could challenge it on the basis that she exercised powers that she doesn't have because there is no position of DDG Legal Services. She could only exercise powers that are attached to chief director.
Chairperson, that is correct. Although
Yes.
in terms of the job description of the job that she occupies, there are no specific decision-making powers
Yes.
allocated to herself, but I understand completely
Yes.
the argument which you
Yes.
make, Chairperson.
But if she gives legal advice also, that legal advice is only supposed to be given in her position as chief director,
That is correct.
not in any other position, because there is no position called DDG Legal Services.
That is correct.
Thank you, Chair. Now, I just want to add on your questions now. Mr. Fenter, do you know how long did she stay with the Department of Economic Development?
Chairperson, I don't have a vivid memory of the time period, but it was not long. It was not long.
Thank you, Chair. Then let's go back to your affidavit. You were saying if it's between the local municipality, Phumelela local municipality, and the Free State Department, or Free State provincial government, it was supposed to be signed by a municipal manager and the Premier. In this instance, what happened?
Chairperson, I do not think that agreement was ever signed. We did the draft, but it was not signed.
So the draft that you did was for the Premier and the for the Premier to sign and the municipal manager to sign.
Yes.
Yes. On paragraph 2.6, you deal with the delegation of authority that happened. Could you please just take us to those events?
Chairperson, in my meeting with the head of department and MEC for Agriculture and Rural Development, I indicated to them that, in my view, if the Free State provincial government will receive the responsibilities and the obligations in terms of the agreement which the municipality had with the farmers on the land, that could fall within the definition of acquire in the Free State Land Administration Act. And if I'm correct, it means that the Premier must then take the decision to enter into that agreement in consultation with the MEC for Public Works as delegated. And subsequent to our meeting, in a meeting of the Executive Council, when there was a break in the meeting, I was requested by the MEC and the head of department to meet briefly with the Premier and to explain that to the Premier, which I did. And I also explained to the Premier that in terms of Section 5 of the Land Administration Act, he is entitled to delegate that authority to a member of the executive, and that the member of the executive is also authorized in terms of the same section of the Act to delegate it to an official of government. The Premier then indicated his willingness to delegate it, and he requested me to prepare the delegation for him, but also to include in the delegation that it is done on the advice of the state law advisors, which I included in that delegation. I also then prepared a delegation from the MEC for Agriculture and Rural Development to the head of the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development to enter into the agreement to assign the responsibilities from the municipality to the Free State provincial government.
If I may ask, why did you suggest that the Premier should delegate?
No, I did not suggest, I advised. I got a sense that he doesn't want to be involved. And that is why I advised that it is possible that he can delegate.
Yes, and with the MEC?
The MEC also indicated that he wants to delegate that to the head of the department, who must run with the process.
Yes.
I think there's a certain distinction you want to make between what you did and suggesting that he delegate. Now, if you say, I advised him to delegate, that's very close to I suggested that he should delegate. But I think what you seek to do is that, what you want to say is that you gave advice that it is possible, that it was possible for him, it was open to him to delegate if he wanted to.
That is indeed correct.
That's what you want to say?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair, for the clarity. And with regards to MEC, how did it come about that he delegated to the HOD?
Chair, if I remember correctly, I indicated to him that he can also delegate. It is authorized in terms of the Act, and he indicated that he so wished to do.
Mr. Fento, there is a principle that is widely known that a delegate cannot delegate further. What then empowered the MEC to delegate to delegate
Have
further
you
to the...
stated the principle correctly, Ms. Butelis? You must be careful.
Yes, it's the principle of delegatus, non potest delegare.
Yeah, but it doesn't say what you say. What you say, it says.
That's my my sort of summary or my understanding of what it says, that a delegate cannot...
Does it not mean that, well, you have got to reflect very carefully if you are going to put it to, to a witness.
Yes.
Certainly, if the original power provides for delegation, it can be done. Okay? So the one option is whether there is provision in the legislation that if you are given this particular power, you can delegate it, because if there is such a provision, obviously a delegation can happen. The other situation is where there is no express provision in the legislation whether you can delegate if you are given power or not. And that's when some principle can come in, and maybe it's not even a principle, it might just be a presumption rather than a principle. So, but all I'm simply saying is just be careful how you put it.
Thank
I don't know
you,
if it's
Chair.
necessary to go there.
Thank you, Chair.
Because I don't know if he's giving evidence as an expert.
I understand, Chair, but
But you might have to make up your mind whether you want to ask. It just depends what you want to achieve.
thank you. Was there law or legislation that was empowering the MEC now to delegate further to someone who is in a lower rank than he was?
Chairperson, yes. Section 1 of the Free State Land Administration Act provides that the Premier may, subject to conditions and so on, delegate to any member of the Executive Council the responsibility of the Premier in terms of this Act. And then in terms of Section 5(2) of this Act, it provides that the member of the Executive Council may then delegate to any official in the service of the provincial government. So it is authorized expressly in the Act.
Thank you, Chair. Then let's move on to paragraph 2.7 of your statement. This is the second advice that you gave to Moremi relative to Section 16 of the Deed Registry Act. Could you please take us through this opinion that you gave to Mr. Moremi?
I'm sorry, what did you say we should go?
It's paragraph 2.7.
Okay.
Yes. And the said opinion, you attach it to your affidavit as Annexure E. Annexure E appears from page 33, Mr. Fenter.
Chairperson, in December of 2012, I received a request for advice from Mr. Moremi, who submitted documents to me to advise him on. When I read through the documents that was, I perhaps in my affidavit wrongly, and I apologize for that, referred to a lease agreement. It was not a lease agreement, it was a cession and assignment agreement. And that cession and assignment agreement ceded and made over all the rights of the municipality in respect of the farm to the Free State provincial government. And when I read through it, I immediately sensed that it was inconsistent with my previous advice in the letter that I gave on the structure that I proposed of the assignment of the agreement so that there could be an engagement with the farmers, and the lease agreement could then be entered into between the municipality and the Free State provincial government. That initial advice was premised also on the fact that the municipality received an annual income from the lease agreements to more or less R1 million. And given the fact that it was a small municipality, they simply could not forfeit that income over any period of time. But the documents that I was presented or provided with by Mr. Muremi indicated that the cession and assignment was not for a limited period, and that there was no compensation to the municipality in those documents. And I advised him accordingly in my letter, which is attached, that it's inconsistent.
Thank you. Do you have any knowledge then what happened to this agreement after your advice?
Chairperson, at a very late stage, and that was about more than a year after this letter, I became aware that there was, in fact, a transfer of the property to the Free State provincial government and a 99-year lease concluded with Estina. I was, for a long period, totally unaware of that.
Thank you, Chair. More information with regard to that issue will be taken up with other witnesses. Thank you, Mr. Venter. Can we then move to paragraph 2.8 of your statement, where you deal with the beneficiary agreement or agreements that were brought to you at some stage? Do you remember when these agreements were brought to your attention?
Chairperson, I can't recall the exact date, but it was towards the end of 2013. When I say towards the end, October to December. I don't have the exact date anywhere in my records.
And who brought this agreement to you or to your office?
Chairperson, it was Dr. Masiteng. My apologies. He's an employee of the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, and if I remember correctly, he occupied the post of Chief Director, District Services. And there were people with him, and I can't recall who it was.
Yes, and who drafted this agreement?
Chairperson, I don't know. When they submitted it to me, it was already drafted and signed.
Yes, I understand that at that stage your opinion was sought, or what was, or if I may rephrase, what was the reason for bringing these agreements to your attention?
Chairperson, my recollection is that my opinion was sought on those beneficiary agreements which I was presented with. I was also presented with a list of names of other beneficiaries, except the names that, or the name that appeared in the contract. I very briefly looked at that contract, and if I think back, I'm a bit embarrassed how I reacted. I was quite annoyed what I read, and I expressed that in no uncertain terms to Dr. Masiteng. I noticed that he signed on behalf of the department, and I asked him whether he was delegated. He indicated not, and I say you can thank heavens that you are not delegated, because this agreement is not valid, because you were not properly delegated. The problems that I just picked up from a very cursory glance at the agreement was that it was not clear what was transferred to the beneficiary. It just referred that the project is transferred. And how the other beneficiaries were fit in, at that stage they were not in a cooperative or a company, it was just individuals. But it also contained clauses that the beneficiary may dispose of the assets of the project. So I said to them, if this beneficiaries now decide to sell these profits or the project assets which you spent a lot of money on tomorrow, in terms of this agreement, they can do it. So I said to them that that agreement is totally inappropriate for the purpose I think that they wanted to use it for. And they left my office. We had no further discussion then on the beneficiary agreement.
Thank you, Chair. That agreement appears on the reference bundle C, page 1,333. It's towards the end of that bundle. Page 1333. Yes. Could you please just take us to those clauses that you were referring to?
Let me get the bundle first, Ms. Buthelezi.
Oh, sorry, Chair.
Reference bundle what?
Reference bundle C.
And what page?
1,333. It's towards the end of the bundle. I'm advised it's the last document on the bundle.
I'm going to adjourn. Will somebody sort out this file, please? We adjourn. Okay, let's proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I wish to apologize for the mess that has
Yeah.
happening in your file. We've
Right.
noticed that your file is two full because it has dividers. Ours don't
Yes.
have. We will separate this file during
No,
lunch
that's fine.
break. Yes,
That's
thank you
fine.
so much, Chair.
Okay.
Mr. Fento, you were to refer the chair to the clauses in that beneficiary agreement that is appearing on page 1333 of reference bundle A that you were not comfortable with.
Chairperson, the first part of the agreement completely did not fit into the project as it was constructed at that time.
Even the description of the parties on the first page, it's just not on.
Indeed,
I
Chairperson.
mean, a project can't be a party
Yes.
to an agreement. Who drafts this kind of agreement?
Chairperson, I have no idea.
Yeah.
But what really concerned me was paragraph 8.2.2 and 8.2.3 on page 134 of the reference bundle, 1340.
1340.
Yes, 1340,
That 1340.
40 years.
Yes.
8.2 starts with the beneficiary shall, and then 8.2.2 provides for sell, dispense, replace, encumber, seat, sign, transfer, and so on, project assets. And then 8.2.3, use, consume, alienate, sell. Although there was a rider that it must be approved by the department, I thought that it was extremely risky to include such clauses in this agreement, given the situation on the ground, where a beneficiary is now authorized to deal with the project assets in a certain way.
But also, the beneficiary wasn't a party to the agreement. The beneficiary was a beneficiary
Yes.
and was said to represent a project, or the project. And then obligations are placed and rights are given to the beneficiary.
But
Yeah.
Chairperson, the bottom line is it was
Yeah.
totally
It was-
inappropriate
Yes.
for the purpose it was crafted for.
Yes.
Yes, and you said it was signed by someone who was a chief director at the time, and not by the HOD.
That is correct. At least when you dispose of assets in a department, it had to be done by the accounting officer. And I specifically requested Dr. Masiteng whether he was delegated, and he indicated no.
Yes.
Did he explain to you why, if he was not, didn't have the delegation, why he signed an agreement that said he was duly authorized? Because that's what it says on the first page.
Chairperson, to my embarrassment, I did not. I was fairly upset, as I indicated, and it was wrong for me to be upset and did not do my work properly because I was really annoyed.
Well, maybe this was a clear example that contracts in government departments should not be finalized before they were sent to the legal advisors in the office of the Premier.
Indeed,
If
Chairperson,
this is what was being done.
indeed.
Thank you, Chair. Then let's move on then to the oral agreement that you gave to the HOD in paragraph 2.9.
Oral advice.
Sorry, oral advice. I'm sorry, I said agreement. I apologize, sir. Oral advice that you gave to the head of department, Mr. Tabete. You deal with that in paragraph 2.9 of your
Must we
affidavit.
put away this file now?
Yes, thank you.
Chairperson, the head of the department, Mr. Tabete, sent to my office a draft memorandum which he intended to submit to the Executive Council, in which it was requested that the Executive Council approve the cancellation of the agreement between the department and Estina. If I remember correctly, it was the day before the Executive Council sat, or the morning before it sat, and I just very briefly looked at it, and I realized that it only referred to one agreement. At that time, I was already aware of the 99-year lease, and I proposed to him that the amendment should be made that the memorandum should reflect that all agreements between the department and Estina be cancelled. Specifically, which I had in my mind was the 99-year lease, which was encumbering the land.
By that time, the 99-year lease had already been signed.
Indeed, Chairperson,
Yes.
it had been
And
signed.
it was on the, and it was, oh, that was the one in terms of which the municipality was getting, what did you say, about R1 million?
No, Chairperson, that 99-year lease did
Oh.
not make provision for any compensation
Oh,
for the
okay.
lease period.
Okay, okay.
Yes, and that lease was between the Free State government and Estina, is that correct?
That is correct.
The municipality was no longer involved at that stage?
No, at that point in time, the municipality transferred ownership of the land to the Free State provincial government.
Yes, okay.
Thank you. And then, which year was this when you gave Mr. Tabete this oral advice?
Chairperson, it was in March 2014, if I remember correctly.
Thank you.
Do you recall for how long the 99-year lease agreement would have been running by that time? By March 2014, more or less? 2 years or anything like that?
It was about a year, Chairperson.
About a year,
If I remember correctly,
yes.
that 99, the transfer and the 99-year lease were registered against the title deed of the property early in 2013.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. You then, in paragraph 2.10, you talk about the cancellation of an agreement, that is the Estina and the Department of Agriculture agreement that was concluded in 2012. Can you just tell us about your involvement in the cancellation agreement?
My apologies. As far as the cancellation letter was concerned, the memorandum to the Executive Council indicated that the department lost the grant from the National Department of Agriculture, and that as a result of that, especially over the period for which the contract with Estina was supposed to last, they are unable to fund their obligations in terms of that agreement, and they requested permission from the Executive Council or approval from the Executive Council to cancel the agreement. The Executive Council approved that, and I was approached by the head of the department to assist to do the necessary paperwork to cancel the agreement. I prepared the cancellation letter specifically using the paragraph which was referred to yesterday, 15.3 of the agreement, the July agreement between Estina and the department. But I crafted the letter in such a way that I kept doors open for a possible review application for the initial contract as well as a review application for the 99-year lease. We had a brief discussion amongst us as legal advisors, and we thought at that point in time that a review application in order to get out of the agreement with Estina was a bit risky. The appropriate functionary in terms of the Act approved the deviation, and he was adamant that he had sufficient grounds, and we didn't think that we would get cooperation for him to be an applicant in a review application. He would probably be a respondent, and it would have created problems. We foresaw a protracted legal process.
Is that the head of the department?
Indeed, yes.
Yes.
Yes, Chairperson. So we opted to invoke the provisions of Clause 15.3 as the cancellation method to cancel this agreement, and I crafted the letter, forwarded to the head of the department, and he must have send it off to Estina, because in April, a letter was sent to my office by the head of the department in which Estina accepted the cancellation.
And then following the letter from the head of department for cancellation, then who then instructed you to draft the cancellation agreement that is attached to your affidavit as Annexure F?
Chairperson, I may perhaps just add, to give some context to what happened, was that in the acceptance of the cancellation by Estina, they indicated that there were a certain amount due and owing to them based on invoices already submitted to the department. I engaged with the head of the department, and he sent a set of invoices to me that he has received from Estina. It was basically a composite statement referring to invoices which were submitted to the department earlier, more or less on a monthly basis. And I realized that that if you look at the amount due, that we will have to have an agreement to formalize that part of Clause 15.3 about compensation for the work done up to the point of cancellation or suspension of the agreement. And I then, with the information provided by the department, prepared that agreement.
So this agreement was prepared by yourself?
Indeed, Chairperson. The resolution of the Executive Council also provided that the Free State Development Corporation should take over the management of the farm, and due to the urgency which I thought it required, I did the one agreement, and my colleague Advocate Swanepoel did the FDC agreement.
Thank you. And what was the total value of the outstanding invoice? That should be on Annexure A of the agreement on page 40 of HH2.
Chairperson, the information is contained on page AJV 36. In paragraph 1.2 of that agreement, it was 106,252,652 rand.
Thank you. You said the agreement between that involves FDC was drafted by your colleague, is that correct?
Yes.
Who instructed you to draft that agreement, the FDC agreement now?
Chairperson, I can't recall that we had specific instructions. It was just to give effect to the resolution of the Executive Council, and to make sure that there is continuity in the management of the farm when the agreement with Estina was cancelled.
I had evidence yesterday that in terms of the agreement that had been concluded with Estina, Estina was obliged to have made a certain financial contribution to the project, but that it never made any payment. So if that is factually correct, I'm wondering whether the department should have made the payments or acknowledged any obligation to make any payments to Estina.
Chairperson, yes, I think you are correct. At that point in time, I was not aware whether any payments were made. As I've indicated, I received a set of invoices, and I requested the department to just compile it into one document that could be attached to the cancellation agreement instead of separate invoices. But my understanding was that these invoices related to work that was already done. So for value which the department has received at that point in time.
But of course, the department wouldn't have to pay Estina for even services that it may have received from Estina if Estina owed the department an equal amount or even more, isn't it? My recollection from yesterday's evidence was that Estina was meant to make a contribution of about 200 and something million rand into the project, and the department was meant to make a contribution of 300 and something million rand into the project, but that the department made its contribution and Estina didn't make any contribution. And from what appears at page 36, what the department was saying the department was acknowledging that it owed Estina 106,252,000, obviously an amount that's less than the amount that Estina is supposed to have paid into the project.
Yes. Chairperson, Estina, the contribution of Estina, if I understood it, was towards the completion of the project in its entirety. The 106 million rand was for what was actually constructed on the ground, for which the department will now receive the benefit upon cancellation. Estina was not supposed to receive any benefit subsequent to the cancellation in respect of project assets.
Well, maybe I don't understand. You and I decide to do a project, and we agree that for this project, we will put in respective amounts. I put my amount. You don't put any amount. Whatever services you are doing are meant to be in terms of this agreement, as I understand. You must tell me if my understanding is correct. How can you be entitled to me paying you anything in terms of this agreement when you haven't performed in terms of this agreement, in terms of the money that you must put in? And I am the only one who has been funding this.
Chairperson, I will try and explain. My understanding was
I'm trying to just understand.
yes,
Yes.
that both parties had to make a contribution, and once both parties has made that contribution, there would be a project that would benefit both. The Department of Agriculture, through the beneficiaries, would receive the benefit, and then Estina would receive some dividends from the proceeds which the processing plant may render after the milk has been processed. That is how I understood the relationship. Now, the project at that point in time did not progress to its logical conclusion. It was terminated before its logical conclusion. So what was put onto the ground was what is what the department received as assets due to the cancellation of the agreement.
Was Estina's obligation to pay its contribution, was that obligation supposed to be performed or carried out at the end of the project?
Chairperson, my understanding from the outset was that Estina would construct the processing plant. That is that contribution. And that is why the advice was also that that processing plant had to be constructed on land not belonging to the municipality or the provincial government in order to make sure that it does not fall within the definition of a public-private partnership. So that was my understanding, that that processing plant would be, Estina's contribution would be to construct the processing plant.
Is your understanding that this 106 million rand was actually paid to Estina?
Eventually, yes.
Eventually, yes. Okay, well, if the legal team may or may not have looked into the issue, but if it hasn't, it should look into the issue whether in these circumstances Estina should have been paid that amount. It may be that it should have been paid. It may be that it should not have been paid, but I think we have an obligation to take a position on whether the department had any obligation to pay that amount in these circumstances.
We are looking at this issue, Chair, and evidence will be led in that regard.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
Then let's then move to the involvement of FDC. Who, if I may ask, we said it was the ESCO that made a resolution that FDC should take over. Is that correct?
That is correct, Chairperson.
Yes. And what was the resolution saying? What was FDC supposed to do there? To do what Estina have been doing?
Chairperson, I can't remember the exact wording of that resolution, but my sense is that the Free State Development Corporation should take over the management of the project.
Thank you. And in your understanding, what is the mandate of Free State Development Corporation? What does it do in the province?
Chairperson, it is basically to support small, medium micro organizations, SMMEs, and also to stimulate economic development. I heard the arguments yesterday about whether FDC was the appropriate vehicle, and I looked at the objectives of FDC as it is contained in the Act, the Free State Development Corporation Act. And with all due respect, I think if you look at those objectives, it may include the management of this project as an effort to stimulate the economy of the province in that area. I may just indicate that, and I may be right or wrong, but my initial perception was that this project was supposed to be the start of a dairy hub in the northeastern part of the Free State. It would not have been limited to what was on the ground during this period that the project lasted, but it would be extended to other farms could be acquired for beneficiaries with the same type of project where initially a piece of land and a number of cows are given to a beneficiary, but the beneficiary is then, there's also a dairy, a milking parlor constructed on that other farm in which beneficiaries receive training and eventually have a commercial dairy business on a farm which will then provide milk to this processing plant on the Kranos list land, the initial plant that has been constructed. So the picture that I had in my mind from the presentation initially was that it was aimed at creating an economic injection into the northern eastern Free State. So as I say, with all due respect, and once I've heard that if two lawyers agree, one is not a lawyer, but I see a bit differently than my colleagues.
Well, I had occasion some time back to look at, in the context of evidence in the commission, to look at what I was told was the legislation that gives the FTC powers to do certain things, or which contains its mandate. So I don't know if you were looking at the same, but what I do recall about that legislation is that what is supposed to be stated as the functions is stated as objectives, and what is stated as objectives is supposed to be stated as functions. Is that the same legislation you looked at?
I think so, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. What would be your view on Mr. Jankielsohn's evidence that you had yesterday that as a result of EXCO appointing or recommending that FTC should manage this dairy project, it was the Free State government was paying an extra $1 million a month because FTC had to employ another implementing agent to operate in the farm.
Chairperson, I am not really able to comment on that. I was not involved in the conclusion of any agreement between the FTC and any service provider to manage the farm. So I am not sure what motivated certain amounts and on what it was premised at that point in time. It's very difficult for me to say. It could be that it was more expensive, but I'm not sure what premised that additional amount when the contract was concluded.
Thank you. And your reference to ESCO in this regard, you meant the Premier and all the MECs at the time, is that correct?
That is correct. Are you referring to the decision to terminate the agreement with Estina?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, and then on paragraph 13, you speak about what happened to the originals of the documents that you referred us to. Could you please take us through that?
Is that 2.13?
Yes, 2.13.
Okay.
Yes, Chairperson, on the 26th of January last year, the Hawks executed a search and seizure warrant on the office of the Premier. It means the whole department. And they obtained records of the minutes and resolutions of the Executive Council. And we indicated to them that we have information that fits into what is contained in the warrant, both in my office as well as the offices of Advocate Swanepoel and Atira. And we offered to provide them with that, and we asked them whether we can make copies for our own records. So what I currently have is copies of the original documents which were seized by the Hawks in terms of the warrant. And I qualify to say that although I can't be absolutely 100% sure that all documents which were in the original file has been copied, from my recollection, it looks like it is quite a composite record of what existed prior in the original files.
Thank you. And Mr. Venter, is there anything that you would like to share with the Commission with regard to this project as a whole, as to how it was introduced, handled, and where it is at this stage?
Chairperson, as I've indicated yesterday, when I initially heard about the project, I thought it was a very good idea. I must honestly say I was quite excited, and I had this picture in my mind of what will be the outcome of this. It sounded extremely good, and I still think that if it was properly managed to its logical conclusion, it could still ascertain what was initially envisaged. What in the meantime happened, and I'm not an economist of any kind, but it was reported in the papers that the price of milk, which the farmers are being paid, has plummeted significantly. I'm aware that that in some instances, and it was reported in newspaper articles, and that is where I picked it up, that farmers were unable to sell their milk to processing plants. And it is fairly big dairy operations that could not sell the milk. Farmers took their tankers into townships, and they just distributed the milk to the people, whoever they wanted it, because they could not sell it. So if you look at this project, and my colleagues in the department may be able to give more information, it needs now some intervention. And in terms of the court order, when the farm was forfeited to the state and handed back to the Free State provincial government, there needs to be a plan that look at the diversification of farming operations on that farm to benefit the community. It could include the dairy, it could include, and the court order also provided that a mentor with the necessary skills should be appointed to develop that diversification plan specifically to benefit the community, and the process is currently underway to try and make the farm viable as a farming operation which benefits specifically the community in that area. Chairperson, if I just may add something, and it was discussed yesterday, and
Yes.
I thought about it last night, and that is clause, is it 3.15, the cancellation clause in the initial?
15.3.
15.3. Chairperson, that is a standard clause that we include in most of the agreements where it is appropriate, and I thought I should just explain where it comes from. The Free State provincial government, like other provincial governments, has a sealed envelope of money, which basically consists of an equitable share that is received from national government, determined in accordance with a specific formula, the grants that we have heard about, and then which are conditional grants for specific purposes, and then own revenue. And following some discussions that we had with Treasury and some budget Lekgotla meetings that I attended, I discussed it with my colleagues, and we thought that we should introduce a mechanism in our contracts that can provide for a reprioritization of policies, which will cause a reprioritization of funds. If I make an extreme example, if, for instance, there is a disaster in which a number of homes of people are destroyed, there isn't a contingency reserve in government, in the Free State provincial government, that we can use. It simply has to come from a reprioritization of funds. And one of the things that we thought that we could do is to build in a mechanism in our contracts that if it is necessary, and if it is possible, to terminate a contract at a certain, or a project at a certain point in time, to make additional funds available to deal with any contingency that may arise, as we should include that in contracts. So I just thought I should
that's where it
explain
comes
that.
from.
Pardon?
That's where it comes from.
That is where
Yeah.
it comes from.
I think the problem is that there is probably there should be a reference to the kind of situation you are talking about, because when one reads it the way it stands, it seems to be wide enough for a situation where maybe there wasn't proper planning.
Yeah.
Creates the impression that, you know, you embarked upon a project without checking whether you have got funds.
Yeah.
But one can understand the kind of situation you're talking about. It may be that, your team could think about whether it's formulated in the best way or not, but that's really your own decision.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Yeah.
It sounds definitely following the experience here is something that we will look into more carefully.
No, thank you. Are you done?
Thank you, Chair. No, I have no further question for Mr.
Yes.
Venter.
No, thank you very much, Mr. Venter. You are excused. Thank you for coming to give evidence to the Commission and to share with the Commission the experiences you have had and the role you played in regard to the advices that you gave and your unit gave in regard to this matter.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very
I'm
much.
glad that I was requested to come and explain. It was a good experience for me as well.
Yes. I take it that the legal team of the Commission has had a chance to have a look at all the documents that you say you are keeping, or at least copies of documents that were taken by the Hawks, to see whether there aren't documents there that are relevant for us. Do you know whether that has happened?
Chairperson, no, but they are more than welcome at any
yeah.
stage to have a
Okay,
look.
if the legal team could check all of those documents to see whether there isn't something that's important for our purposes.
Will do, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Venter. You are excused. We'll take the tea adjournment now. It's 26 minutes past 11. We will resume at 11:45. We adjourn.
Thank you.
HH4, Exhibit HH4,
Okay.
Chairman.
And
If that might be,
file containing the affidavit of Mr. Ephraim Makosini Dlamini will be marked as Exhibit WH4.
thank you, Chairman.
Okay.
Chairman, with your leave, Mr. Dlamini is ready to be sworn in.
Are we going to use an interpreter today?
We have an interpreter sitting with Mr. Dlamini.
Yes. Miss Interpreter?
Yes, Chair.
Yes. Are you the same interpreter that was sworn in last week?
Yes, Chair, I am.
Yes. So you were duly sworn?
Yes, I was sworn in you.
Yes, okay, thank you. Go and administer the oath of affirmation, and the interpreter will interpret the oath.
Should I stand as well?
Yes, please stand, interpreter.
Okay. Please state your full names for the record.
Ngizocela uchaze amagama akho.
Ephraim Makosini Dlamini.
Ephraim Makosini Dlamini.
Do you have any objection with taking the prescribed oath?
Unayo inkinga yokufungiswa?
Cha ke.
I have no objections.
Do you consider the oath to be binding on your conscience?
Uyafunga ukuthi lokho ozokukhuluma kuzohambelana naloko kungaphakathi kunembeza kwakho?
Yebo.
I swear.
Do you swear that the evidence you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please raise your right hand and say, "So help me God."
Uma kunjalo ke funga ukuthi ufakazi ozobethula kuzoba iqiniso, iqiniso lodwa, iqiniso lonke, ubese ubisa isandla sakho sokudla ucela inkosi ikusize.
Inkosi ngisize.
Sworn in.
Thank you.
Chair, just as a preface, Mr. Dlamini is one of the beneficiaries of the Vrede Dairy project. Mr. Dlamini, good morning.
Uyabulisa.
Yeah, sawubona.
Good morning.
Please turn to page 1 of the witness bundle marked HH4 that you have.
Ngizocela ke uvule page 1 HH4 kubandle yakho ne kumaphepha lawo waphethe.
Sengibulile.
I am on page 1.
Well, if Mr. Dlamini needs an interpreter, him looking at that statement is not going to help. It would have to be the interpreter who looks at the statement and then helps him in terms of interpreting, isn't it?
That is so, Chairman. I have gone through the motions of identifying at least his names and the fact that he signed the document. He knows that that's his signature, and he remembers the date. He knows the date on which he signed it. I thought if we go through just those formalities, the rest we'll then ask he's really going to speak to the document, Chairman. This is just for the
Or
formality.
you just want to confirm that
He
it's his
is
signature?
correct, Chairman, that he is Ephraim Dlamini and that that's his signature and the date on which he signed the statement.
Yes, I take it that because he signed a statement that is in English, that his position is that he does understand English and does understand what the statement says, but for purposes of his evidence, he prefers to use another language.
That is so, Chairman,
Yes.
particularly because it was then read back to him, but then in isiZulu.
Yes.
The statement written in English was then read back to him in isiZulu. So he doesn't really read English, or he doesn't read it as well, he's not as fluent. He does prefer to give his evidence in isiZulu.
Well, then there's something wrong with the statement. Because the statement doesn't say it was read to him, it's him speaking English in the statement.
It does not say that, Chairman, that I concede.
Yes, so if he doesn't understand English, then it means what should have been done is that there should have been either a statement in isiZulu that he made, and then somebody else translated that statement into English, or there should have been an interpreter's certificate that says, I interpreted this statement from that to that, from that paragraph to that paragraph to him into isiZulu, and this is what he confirmed. But if it is in English and he signs it, then it's not correct.
Chairman, with your leave, could we just confirm with Mr.
What the
Dlamini
position is.
what the position is?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I'll adjourn for a short while, and then you'll let me know once you are ready. And we adjourn.
Thank you, Chairman.
Uthi ngoba ibhalwe ngesingisi and wena mawuthi isingisi awusazi bekufanele ukuthi siyenze ngenye indlela lento le sibhale ngesizulu
Are you able to proceed?
Yes, thank you, Chairman.
Yes.
Chairman, the legal team has had discussions with both beneficiaries, Mr. Dlamini and Mr. Ngongwane. They both confirm that they can read and understand English. They have read their statements and understood them, and they then signed the statements after having read them and understood them.
Okay, okay.
Chairman, so I would suggest that the way we proceed is that because Mr. Dlamini, in this instance, is more comfortable in speaking his mother tongue, isiZulu, I ask the question in English, the interpreter interprets it for him for convenience sake, he responds in the language he is comfortable with, she will then interpret that back into English, and we proceed along those lines.
Yes, let's do it that way.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dlamini. Can I just ask again, could you please confirm on page 1 that this is your name, and on page 9 that that is your signature? Mike?
Please put your mic on and put his on as well. Thank you.
Baba Dlamini ngizocela ke uqinisekise ukuthi amagama lawa avela ku page 1 amagama wakho ngempela. Masuka ku page 1 sizoya ku page 9 la uzoqinisekisa khona ukuthi uwe umuntu ke osayinile lapha ku page 9.
Yebo, amagama lawa asayidwe la abhalwe lapha wami nalana kusayine mina.
Okay. Indeed, Your Worship, the names that are appearing on page 1 are my names, and the signature, Your Worship, attached there to on page 9 is my signature, I confirm. Signature.
And we call the DCJ the chairman in
Oh,
this
cha-
forum.
I'm used to court, so every now and then you'll hear Your Worship, so please pardon me.
No, I
Yes,
understand. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you confirm that you are familiar with the contents of this statement.
So uyaqinisekisa ukuthi lokho okuqukethwe kule statement lesi esibhalwe la uyakwazi ukuzwile ukuzwisisile futhi.
Okubhalwe yimi engeke ngikukhohlwe futhi.
It was written by me, so I will never forget, indeed.
Thank you very much. Are there any changes that you would want to make to this statement at this point in time?
Kulesikhathi samanje ingabe ukhona noma lukhona ushintsho ofuna ukulenza kule statement?
Cha ke.
No.
Have you had any interviews with any investigative agencies with regards to the Vrede dairy farm matter?
Uke waba nabantu mhlamba abavela kumaphiko athile akhethekile aye waxoxisana nawe mayelana ke nesehlakalo lesalapha ke eFrede kuphiko lolo lisebenza ngobisi?
Yebo.
Yes.
Who were these?
Obani lapho?
Mina ngu-chairperson walapha eFrede. Sizamile ukubiza
Obani? Okay.
Sizamile ukubiza abantu baka-government boba Madiba, bomamiki Gabashe. Ngiyangazama ukuthi ngikhulume no Minister of Zokwane kwakunembizo
Minister, ngixolisa Minister?
Zokwane.
Okay, Maranjab. That is correct, Your Worship. We did call some people to intervene or to talk to regarding this matter. It was mostly government officials, Mr. Madiba, Ms. Gabashe, and Ms. Zokwane.
Can I ask you to do this for the chairman? I really just want formal agencies such as the Hawks or the Public Protector, as opposed to government officials whom you may have interacted with.
Okay, as ngiyazi ukuthi nikhulumile ke nabakahulumeni. Ngifuna ke la amanye amaphiko njengalawa aphenyayo azama ukusiza ukulungisa lesi simo njengama Hawks kanye nomvikeli womphakathi kanje.
Siye sakhuluma no Busisiwe Mkhobane. Sihlangane kabili naye samlanda la e-ofisini yakhe weze Vrede azothatha i-statement sethu.
Okay, correct, we did. We did speak to the Public Protector, Busisiwe Mkhwebane. We met with her twice in her office, and she also came down to Vrede to take down our statements.
Thank you. You'll give the detail of that evidence later. Which other agency of government have you spoken with?
Abakahulumeni ke asiyeke uzonikezwa ithuba ekugcineni lokuthi uchaze kabanzi mayelana nale statement enisinikezo usisibusisi asendlule nje okwamanje lapho abanye futhi ke enikhulumeni nabo ke abathintekayo kwahulumeni yibaphi enikhuluma mayelana nalolu daba.
Ama-Hawks ngike ngahlangana nawo, ngino-message nawo wawuvela kuma-Hawks, baba khona kithi kuzothatha istatement kwakumgcibelo nangesonto.
Okay, we also spoke to the Hawks, Your Worship. I also have a message from e-message lokhuluma ngayo isefonini.
Isefonini.
An SMS or a text message, Your Worship, that I received from them. And we also met up with them, Your Worship, on a Saturday and a Sunday. They took down our statements as well.
Mr. Basha, I hope I didn't miss this. You might wish to just take care of evidence like where he lives, because beneficiaries are supposed to be people who live in a certain area, where he lives and blah, blah, and his connection with the project before we go into contact with the Hawks and so on.
Yes.
You might wish to consider doing that.
Yes, Chairman, I was just trying to deal with the 6-5 transcription rule that we have, just so that we know who else may have a record in terms of our Rule 6-5 of what this witness might have said to one of our agencies. I start with that straight after that. It was really just a matter of clearing
Yes.
the 6-5 rule,
Yes.
Chairman.
Yes, I always look for the connection with the witness first, and so, because then after that one knows who is this one, how does it come into this, then one. Yes, okay, proceed.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I do that? My next question
Yes.
is, where do you live?
Uhlala kuphi?
Ngihlala eThembalihle, Vrede. Inamba kami is 2387 Mudisa Street.
I stay at Thembalihle Township in Vrede. The address, Your Worship, of my residential house is 2387
Kanye Street.
Kanye Street.
How long have you been living there?
Usunesikhathi esingakanani uhlala lapha?
Ngwenzalo yasemaplazini waseFriyede. Ithe makuzoshona abazali bami ngayeka umsebenzi lana eJoburg, ngabuyela ekhaya ngayovusa umuzi kababa, ngihlala ngo-2000 mangithola istende emdise lapho ngakha.
Okay, I was born in the farms, Your Worship, in Vrede. Then I moved to Johannesburg, Your Worship, with work. But I came back year 2000, Your Worship, to build, to rebuild my family's property, Your Worship, and I stayed there at Mudisa until now.
Are you employed?
Ingabe uyasebenza?
Cha ke ngiyasebenza.
I'm self-employed.
What business are you employed in?
Wenza business lini mawuthi wena uyazisebenza?
Ngumlimi,
I'm a farmer.
ngina 52 yenkomo community yaMaspali.
I have 52 cattle in the homage of the municipality.
Ngikholwa ukuthi zingenzela imali ngengaba nebhizinisi le-record bar.
I am, Your Worship, benefiting or have make proceeds from these cattle, and I also have another business of a record bar.
Thank you. Please describe the environment of Vrede for the chairman, the environment you live in, which would include Thembalihle Township.
Chaza indawo ohlala kuyo, isimo sayo, indawo enjani le enihlala kuyo iFrede, kakhulukazi ke indawo le wena ohlala kuyo eThembalihle.
iFriyede indawo encane ayinamafemu. Umsebenzi uyantuleka abantu basebenza emaplazini bahola imali encane.
Okay, Thembalihle of Township of Vrede, Your Worship, it's a very small area township. There is a high unemployment rate there, and mostly people are working in the farms and they are earning far less or less money.
Yes, continue.
Qhubeka.
Ngene umsebenzi awukho lapha. Fanele ube namachinga ukuthi ikhona into yenzayo. Ma nembasa abantu baseFrede basebenza ngaphandle ukuze bathole imali engathi iphakamile.
Like I placed it on record, Your Worship, the chairperson, is that there is a high unemployment rate in the area. So you need to be very creative in terms of trying to make money. And most people, Your Worship, chairperson, just to place it on record, is that they are working outside Vrede to earn money for a living.
In paragraph 2 of your statement, you mentioned that you are the chairman of the African Farmers Association, and that Mr. Ngongwane is a member as well.
Mangabe ke ubheka ke umqalo wesibili paragraph number 2 uchaza ukuthi wena ke uwe umgcini sihlalo ke wabalimi balaphayana eFrede uphinde futhi uchaze ukuthi uMr Ngongwane ke isekela lakho.
Kunjalo.
That is correct.
What is Mr. Ngongwane's position in this organization?
Kule nhlangano ke yini ke iposition yakababa uNgongwane?
Isandla sami.
He is my deputy.
What does the African Farmers Association do? What's your core business as an association?
Nena ke njengale nhlangano yabalimi balaphayana eFrede noma African Farmers Association nenzani umsebenzi wenu kahle kahle?
Thina singama simele abantu abalimi abancane kwesikhathi makunezinto ezivela ka-government njenge-agriculture yimi engisayina amaphepha akhona noma sicela ukudla kunesomiso yimi engisayina amaphepha lawo noma kuphuma izinto ka-agriculture ngiyazisayinela.
Okay, we are representing small farmers in the area, and whenever there are any activities coming from the Department of Agriculture, we go between the farmers and the Agriculture Department, and whenever there's drought, we seek assistance from the Agriculture Department, and maybe for food and stuff, we request help from them. So we're basically representing the small farmers in the area.
Are there a number of such small farmers in your area?
Is there? Sorry, would you please repeat?
Are there a number of such small farmers in your area?
Ingabe kunaba inamba ethile abalimi abancane indaweni le ohlala kuyo?
Ya abalimi abalapha baningi kakhulu ngokuthi impilo yalapha mawungafuyile awusumuntu ungawondla ingane zakho. Bonke abantu abalapha bafuyile inkomo bavela nazo emaplazini. Khumbula ukuthi imemele iwardeni.
Okay. Memel, Warden.
Yeah.
There are a number of farmers. In fact, most people live on farming, Your Worship, in the area. Most of the people who are residing in the area, like I said, they are living on farming. They have cattle that they come with, Your Worship, from the farms. And remember, note, we consist of people coming from Memel and Warden. So mostly they are farmers who live on cattle or farming to survive.
Bancedwa yimi ukuthi ngibacela ukudla from government. Ukuthi yimi ngibamele.
Mawuthi bacelela ukudla uzama ukuchaza ukuthi Your Worship, may I just ask for clarity?
Yimi njengo chairperson nginelungelo lokuthi ngibhalele iloku abaphethe be-agriculture ukuthi lana kunesimiso sicela ukudla kwenkomo bangiphendule ngiye kubantwini ngiyenza ama-meeting ngibatshele.
Okay, like I stated, Your Worship, whenever there's drought, the cattle won't have something to eat. So I would write a letter representing the small farmers in the area to seek help, Your Worship, in terms of getting food for the cattle in the area. So I basically assist with that by writing or communicating with the Department of Agriculture.
More or less, how many members does the African Farmers Association have, or the Vrede chapter of the African Farmers Association have?
Uma ucabangela ke baba inamalunga amangakhi ke i-association noma inhlangano yenu le yalaphayana eFrede eFrede yabalimi?
Last year ngangina 82 yama-member amafamara waseFrede. Mangibheka ephepheni kade silibhalisa la le-ground manje singale ku-120.
Okay, a year before last, Your Worship, farmers from Vrede who are belonging to the association, Your Worship, were 82. And now, Your Worship, the number is sitting at 120 farmers.
Thank you.
Now, you state that you have personal knowledge of the meetings that led to the selection of beneficiaries for the Vrede Dairy Farm project.
Othi-ke unolwazi baba wena-ke lokuthi bakhethwa njani abalimi abagcine belaphayana noma akuyibona abazobhenefitha kule nto le ye-Vrede Dairy Farm.
Mayiqaleka ngangikhona.
When it was initiated, I was there.
Please explain to the chairman in short bits when these meetings took place, where these meetings took place, who attended these meetings.
Ngicela usichazele-ke kafushane kahle ngokulandelana baba ukuthi ayenzeke kuphi-ke le meeting noma le inhlangano lama meetings bewaba kuphi nini futhi ubani obebakhona kulawo ma-meetings.
Can I just assist you with structure? So if you could start with the first meeting and complete that before you go to the second meeting.
Asiqale-ke ngomhlangano wokuqala ubukuphi bese mawuceda ngomhlangano wokuqala sizoya kowesibili.
Umhlangano wokuqala ngangikhona.
First meeting I was present.
Sasibiziwe lapho. Mr. Zwane kwakuye kwaku MEC.
We were called in a meeting, Your Worship, chairperson by Mr. Zwane, who was an MEC at the time.
Umhlangano wabambela lapha Mhlabuzima Hall
The meeting was held at Mhlabunzima Hall
naselokishini.
in the township.
Lapho sagroupa khona ngenhlangano ukuthi siyenza ini omunye futhi uthanda ukwenza ini.
There, Your Worship, Chairperson, we grouped ourselves into the responsibilities, what this, this group will do and what this other group will do.
Bengifuna ukuqala lapha abantu be government babe khona bombuso.
Like to place it on record, Chair, that government officials were also present in the said meeting.
Kwakukhona umsebenzi Zwane,
Msebenzi Zwane was present.
ngiyamazi,
I know him.
ngazi ubabakhe.
I even know I know him personally. I even know the father.
Even namanje lapha bokuhlala inkomo zami la kwakhe ubabakhe khona.
Even the place where I keep my cattle, Your Worship, it was his father's property before.
Kwakukhona ubaba uThabethe.
There was also Mr. Tabete,
Kwakukhona imeya ubaba uMtawung.
Mr. Mutawung, the mayor as well was present.
Kwakukhona uJimmy Mphahlele station officer.
There was also Jimmy Mphahlele, station officer.
Kwakukhona uThuto Khanye
Tuto Khanye was also present.
no Khulaiza Sibeko.
Kulaiza Sibego.
Engazi ukuthi baqhashelwa ini ka-agriculture makungena ubaba umsebenzi Zwane.
I don't even know, Your Worship, what was their position in the agriculture
Kodwa-
department, but it was at the time when Msebenzi Zwane was the MEC.
Kodwa ngizochaza ngokuthi wathanda izinto zepolitiki bazomlalelela amakhulunywa ngezinto zepolitiki noma sihleba ngaye.
Ngizocela ukuphinde futhi lokho.
Wathi bazomlalelela uthanda izinto zepolitiki noma sihleba ngaye bazomtshela.
Umbaba Msebenzi Zwane.
Yes.
Mr. Msebenzi Zwane, Your Worship, basically what we said is that these people were his eyes and ears, since he is interested in the politics, Your Worship. Whenever he's not there, they'll be there, Your Worship, to listen to what people are saying. Basically, his eyes and ears. When there's meetings and he's not there.
Kwakukhona uDube Khobeni
There was also Dube Kobedi,
usebenza kamasipala lapha.
his municipal employee.
Kwaqaleka imeeting.
Then the meeting resumed or started.
Can I just ask you, if I might interrupt you? From the community, are you able to identify some of the people you know who were at that first meeting?
Asiyeke kumphakathi wala ndihlala khona. Abobani amalunga omphakathi ebewe khona okwazi ukwakhomba washo ukuthi ubani nobani bebekhona kulomhlangano wokuqala.
Ayikhake bonke babekhona engakhona ukubakhomba uMisha Ncongwana.
Mishak Ngongwane, most of them were there, present in the meeting, that I can also identify Mishak Ngongwane,
William Khanye,
William Kanye,
Well, maybe let me say, there may have been 100 people there. We don't want you to mention all of them.
Kungenzeka ukuthi
So
bekhona
just
abayikhulu.
just those that you think, in terms of the role they played, are important, then you can indicate that there were others, and you can give an indication of the number if you are able to say, well, from the community, maybe must have been about 30 or 40 or whatever people. But you don't need to mention each and every one of them.
Mhlambe bebebaningi kakhulu beyikhulu noma bendlula ikhulu uyazwisisa ngithi so asenze kanje wena chaza laba ebona ababalulekile nendima ebebeyidlala uyazwisisa ne bese uthi nabanye ke bomphakathi kafuthishane nje uthi mhlambe umphakathi besingaka ngicabangela ukuthi umphakathi sonke besiyibanga elingaka and then ababalulekile ubani nobani and indima ebebeyidlala yile.
Yebo no Philemon Ngwenya wayekhona.
Philemon Ngwenya was there.
Ulindiwe Masiteng wayekhona.
Lindiwe Masiteng was also present.
I'm sorry. Philemon, did you say Philemon Ngwenya or Philemon
Ngwenya.
Ngwenya? Ngwenya, okay.
Sasilapha ku.
Well, I don't know if Ngwenya and Ngwenya mean the same thing, so maybe.
Sasilapha ku 100.
No umphakathi.
Yeah, sibaningi.
We were almost 100, Chair, as community members.
Ukuthi kwakhona beNgulube, ukhona beRed Meat, ngakumunye walapho kuRed Meat, ukuthi nginenkomo zeRed Meat. Uba inkomo zebisi, benkukhu.
Okay, most members were there, Your Worship, Chair. There were those who were in poultry farming, dairy, pig and red meat, and I am representing I am dealing with the red meat since I have cattle.
Who addressed you at that meeting?
Kuloya mhlangano ubani umuntu obekakhuluma emhlanganweni.
Kwenzeka nje kwakubabu Zwane wayekhuluma emeeting.
Mr. Sebenzi Zwane was addressing the meeting.
Ubaba Mtawung kwakuyena wayekhona wayavula umhlangano.
Mr. Mtawung is the one who officially opened the meeting.
What is the position of Mr. Mutawung in Vrede?
Mr. Mtawung yena ke yini indima yakhe noma iposition yakhe lapha yana eVrede?
Mayor.
He is the mayor.
Thank you. Continue.
Qhubeka.
And then ilage ubaba Zwane wasitshela khona ukuthi sizigroup esagroupa ke.
It was in that meeting where Mr. Zwane requested us to group ourselves.
Wasitshela ukuthi yena ufuna ukuthi makenze project kube iproject engasuki kumiphansi.
He said whenever he's initiating a project, he wants it to be a success or a very successful project.
Wayechaza ukuthi kufanele mangabe iproject mayikhiqiza ubisi kusengwe kuyenza amayogati kuyenziwe amashizi yonke lento.
He said if it is going to be a dairy project, there should be activities there like milking and then processing the said milk into yogurt, cheese and everything.
Kodwa mina ngangapha ngakuRed Meat ngokuthi nginenkomo zenyama.
Like I've placed it on record, Chair, that I have cattle, so I was on the group of red meat.
Ubaba Ncongwana ba mangikhumbula kahle baba u56 lapho benkomo zobisi.
And then on dairy, it was Mr. Ngongwane was part of the dairy group and there were about 5 or 6 members.
And then after lapho siqeda ku group sabe sesiyabhala phansi sasiyibhalela ukuthi group inethu bangaki yonke le.
Amalunga.
Amalunga.
After we have grouped ourselves, Your Worship, Chair, we then wrote down the names so that we would be able to identify who is on which group and how many members are there in each group.
Wayena mahlaya le ndoda le. Isho nokuthi
Eyiphi indoda?
ubaba umsebenzi.
Okay.
Ukuthi uyasazi sikhule kuphi nabophi. Wayiqona kumuntu ofuna ukusenzela izinto ezinhle.
He had a sense, he has a sense of humor, and he was there cracking jokes and saying that he knows us personally and where we grew up or where we're coming from, and that he wants to do good things for all of us.
Umvakaloko umhlangano waphela.
After that, the meeting was dissolved.
But before you go to the end of the meeting, How did you receive what Mr. Zwane was telling you?
Ngap-
Did it sound like something that could happen, that he could bring to Vrede?
Asingayisijaheli ke ekupheleni komhlangano baba. Asithathe ke lokhu ubaba uMsebenzizwane ebenitshela kona. Nina kamukela njani nina njengamafama wakuleya ndawo? Nina ijabulela lento bekayisho ibinikeza yini ithemba ukuthi ngempela kuzoba into ephumelelayo?
Yebo, lento yayinhle kabi sasijabulela abanye abantu kodwa mara lapho basola ngokuthi wayehamba nobaba uMtawu. La kwazi wathi bangakhi abangamthanda ubaba uMtawu ngumeya.
Indeed, Your Worship, Chair, it sounded like a very good project. We were happy with it and we thought it will yield good results. But others were suspicious because of the fact that Mr. Mtaung was part of the meeting, to a point that Mr. Msebenzizwane did inquire as to how many who don't approve of Mr. Mtaung.
Baphakamisa izandla umunye ubaba uNcongwana umunye waphakamisa isandla wathi bachaze kungani.
I know a few people did raise their hands, those who did not approve of Mr. Mutaung as the mayor. I know that Mr. Ngongwane is one of the people who raised a hand of disapproving of Mr. Mutaung.
Lokho babekushiso ngokuthi
And he
ezinye
then, sorry, Your Worship, I missed the part, and then he requested, Msebenzizwane requested the reasons why they did not like or disapprove of him.
and then lapho ke basho ke ukuthi kungani babengamthandi ezinye izinto masibhale incwadi sicela umhlaba wayengaphenduli ubaba uMtaung.
They then gave the reasons as to why they were disapproving of him. And one of the reasons, Your Worship, was when we were requesting to get the land, he was not responding on the letters or correspondences to him, specifically requesting that we have the land. He never responded. So one of the reasons was that.
Before you deal with the issue about land that had been requested, go back to what the outcome of the meeting was for you. You were about to tell us about that and I had interrupted you.
Wena ke umphumela asiyeke ke indaba yokuyocela komhlaba. Umphumela egcineni walomhlangano ubuyini kuwe usathi uyasichazela.
Mina kahle kahle ngangekho interested nge-dairy free nge-dairy. Ukuthi ngangineenkomo zenyama. So ngangafuna ukukhipha inkomo zami zonyama nge-dairy ngokuthi baningi abelungu engibabukayo bahlula i-dairy.
Abelungu.
Abelungu.
Amafama wabelungu.
Yeah.
Okay. I was not interested in the dairy farm, reason being that I specialize or I have cattle for red meat. And I have seen most of the white farmers not succeeding when they are running a dairy project. So that is why I had no interest. My interest was on the red meat since I had cattle.
When was this meeting, if you are able to remember?
Uma ngabe uyakhumbula beyinini lomhlangano ube nini? The first meeting we are talking.
Yeah, noma sesingakhumbuli kahle ama-date ukuthi kwakunini ngokuthi emhlanganweni kwawenziwa abantu be-government noma bakamasipala babengasinikezi ama-minutes.
Though I don't remember exactly the dates of the meeting, because the meetings were done by the municipal workers or government officials, they wouldn't be given the copy of the meetings, so I don't have reference to the dates.
Mara ngiyacabanga ekuqaleni kwe-dairy kwaku-2012.
But when this dairy project was initiated, Your Worship, it was year 2012.
Ama-date noma ngingakhumbuli kahle ngokuthi lezi zinto zazenzeka ngokushesha.
Though I don't remember the dates precisely, because these events were happening like quicker and faster.
Okay, thank you.
There are some media articles that we have collected from open source media.
Kuneyindaba ke ebeziphuma emaphepheni esesaziqoqa njengobufakazi obulethwe la.
And there is one that is written on the 28th of April, 2018.
Kunale ke eyabhalwa ngomhla ka-28 April 2018 ephume ephepheni.
Chairman, for your reference, there is a media bundle that you have at your disposal.
Yes.
And this particular article is on page 8. You may want to read it later.
Yeah.
I'm just going to summarize the
Yes.
salient point.
No, that's fine.
Uzovele nje ayifunde yena ne. le i-article noma udaba lolu lwaphuma ephepheni ngomhla ka-28 April 2018.
Okay, akafuni.
What I would like you to do is tell the chairman if this is your recollection of what happened on that day in 2012.
Ngizothi bangikufunda ke ubese wena uchazela uchairman ukuthi ngempela lokho kubhalwe la yiloko kwenzeka emhlanganweni ngo-2012. Yes.
And I quote Vrede, South Africa. With loudspeakers blaring, city officials drove across the Black Township's dirt roads in a pickup truck, summoning residents to the town hall.
Ngalolo suku ke bebehamba bememezela nge-truck bememezela umphakathi ukuthi mawuze ke emhlanganweni.
Yebo kunjalo.
That is correct.
The main guest was a local figure who had soared up the ranks of the governing African National Congress and come back with an enticing offer.
Obeka khona ke lapha azoba isikhulumi ke esicavile umuntu ovela ke emazingeni aphezulu wenhlangano ke African National Congress eza ke ezontshela ngenhlelo ezizonenza ukuthi nijabule ninabantu bendawo.
Yebo.
That is correct.
Over the next few hours, the visiting political boss, Musebenzi Joseph Zwane, sold them on his latest deal.
Uye wayese ke obeka khona ke lapha yana uvela ke kunhlangano yakahulumeni noma inhlangano le African National Congress ube kungumsebenzi Zwane ozela ukuzonichazela ukuthi uniphatheleni ngalolo suku.
Yebo.
Yes.
A government-backed dairy farm that they, as landless black farmers, would control.
Lena ke bekuzoba ke iplazi lobisi abalimi babantu abamnyama abazolawula.
They would get
That is correct.
they would get an ownership stake in the business.
Nizothola ke nani nizokwazi ukuba nomnotho othile kulo le business le farm.
Just by signing up.
Ngokuthi ke nize nje nizovuma ni sign phansi ukuthi nani niyingxenye yale farm noma le project.
Kwakunjalo.
That is correct.
They would go to India for training, all expenses paid.
Nizoya lapha ke ezweni laseNdiya niyoqeqeshwa khona nikhokhelwe zonke indleko ezizoba khona.
Kunjalo.
That is correct.
To hear him tell it, the dairy would bring jobs to the impoverished, help build a clinic, and fix the roads.
Othi ke uma ngabe seyifikile ke le project edeli lapha kule ndawo izoletha imisebenzi iphinde futhi yakhe ne clinic for umphakathi lo oswele ontulayo.
Kunjalo.
That is correct.
There is more, Mr. Dlamini, in that article. What I want you to confirm is what you heard at that first meeting is what I have just read to you.
Kuningi ke okuqukethwe kule ndaba ekhona kulela phephandaba kodwa engifuna ke ungiqinisekise kona ukuthi lo engikufundile ingabe nakuzwa kule yanhlangano na.
Yebo sakuzwa enhlanganweni yesibili ekwakhulunywa umsebenzi Zwane.
Yes, we did hear about that, but in the second meeting which was addressed by Mr. Msebenzi Zwane.
Please explain what you then heard in the second meeting that's different to what you heard in the first meeting.
Sichazele ke baba ukuthi ukuphi okuhlukile onakuzwa umhlangano wokuqala okuhlukile kumhlangano kwesibili.
Ukuthi bazoyenza i-dairy Vrede and then izaba nabantu aba 100 ama beneficiary. Thina singama beneficiary welokwa wase Vrede sizaba ne 52%.
Umhlangano wesibili lo.
Wesibili.
What we heard in the second meeting now, Chair, is that they were going to establish or start up a dairy farm in Vrede with 100 beneficiaries, and that as beneficiaries, we will have a 52% stake into the farm or the project.
Iqiniso ukuthi 20% lapho izoyendleleni nebhazari nezikolweni nasesibhedlela ukuthi balungise.
Construction, ukwakhiwa indlela.
Yeah.
Okay, nani?
Nebhazari abantwana ukuthi baye esikolweni. No nasesibhedlela lapha ncede isibhedlele lapho ingemali.
It is also correct that 20% was said to be going to go towards the constructions of road and hospital, as well as bursaries for the children or our children in the area.
28% iya ku government ngokusho kwabo.
And then 28% will go to the government according to them.
Iyasijabulisa kakhulu lento.
It was good news to us. We were happy
Angayithandi
with that.
dairy,
I was not interested in the dairy farming, like I said,
mara mangezwe ukuthi sizoyiswa eIndia
but when I heard about us being taken to India
uyofundela into ufuna ukuthi yenziwe lapha.
for training, for training of whatever is going to happen in the dairy or the
Uzozikhethela
farm.
ukuthi uthanda ini. Ukuthi umsebenzi uthandayo uphi.
Okay, when you'll have a choice of what you want to be trained on, which one are you interested in?
Sasijabule kakhulu.
We were excited about it.
Now, who of government officials attended the second meeting?
Kulo mhlangano wesibili ubani osebenzela uhulumeni ozile.
Uthabethe wayengasali lama kukhona umsebenzizwana.
Mr. Tabete was always present with us, Mr. Msebenzizwane.
Yena ko umeya nayo meya nabanye bodume babebakhona.
The mayor as well would be present, and Dume.
Udume osebenza kamasipala.
Dume was a municipal employee or
Umphahle
official.
umphahlelo waka agriculture wabakhona nabothuto nabosibeko
Mr. Mpahlele from agriculture, Tuto, and
ensibeko
Mr. Sibego.
babebakhona lapho.
They would also be present in the meeting.
Ila sasibabona ngamehlo ukuthi siyabazi.
That's why we would say them in person, Your Worship. We know them personally anyway.
Are you saying Mr. Zwane was there as well?
Uzama ukuthi ubaba uZwane ube khona naye ngokwakhe.
Wayekhona
Yes, he
ngalelo
was.
langa.
On that day, yes, he was present.
Before we go further into the second meeting, can I take you back to the first meeting?
Ngaphambi kokuthi siye kule umhlangano wesibili, asibuyele kulo wokuqala umhlangano.
Ngiyabonga.
You told me that Mr. Zwane spoke, but you didn't tell me whether there was anybody from the Farmers Association who also spoke at the meeting.
Uye wasitshela ke ukuthi ubaba uMsebenzizwane wakhuluma kulo mhlangano wokuqala. Awuzange ke usitshele ukuthi kunhlangano yabalimi ukhona ukhulumile yini.
So I would like to know whether there was anybody who spoke on behalf of the Farmers Association and any other person who spoke on anything that you consider to have been important.
Ngifuna ukwazi ke ukuthi ingabe ukhona okhulumile ovela kunhlangano yabalimi noma ngabe umunye futhi umuntu okhulumile mayelana lento ocabanga ukuthi ibalulekile mayelana nalento esikhuluma ngayo la.
Cha ke umuntu kwakuyisikhulumi esicavile kwakuyena ubaba uMsebenzizwane kule first meeting. Ila ubaba umdawu wayethi ithabile muthi wahesu uhlene zanto uzonenzela into enhle.
Okay. Yiba abantu abakhulumile nje.
Ujabulile ukuthi umuntu okhulele la Vrede uzosenzela uzosilethela umsebenzi izinto ezinhle.
The main speaker on the day in question, or the prominent speaker on the day in question, it was Mr. Msebenzizwane, Your Worship, Chair. And then the mayor, Mr. Mudawung, uttered the words that he's also happy that someone who also grew up in the very same area in Vrede, Your Worship, is bringing good news to the community.
Yiba abantu babesesihlokweni sasilalele bona ngokuthi babesibizile.
Those were the main speakers on the day in question, and those are the people who summoned or called the meeting.
Akekho omunye ke wakhuluma phandle lapha mase sinamahlaya khona makalukathi wena ngiyakwazi ukukhulela kuphi emaplazini yonke lento.
No one
Usho ubaba
else
umsebenzi.
addressed or spoke in the meeting, except when we were now socializing, Your Worship, then joking there and there, or, yeah, that's all.
Thank you very much, Lenny.
Thank you. Can I
Yeah.
just also tidy up one last aspect of meeting one?
Akube naloku ke esikulungisayo ke okuncanyane nje okwenzeke kumhlangano lo wokuqala.
Was Mr. Zwane's wife, Ms. Rosaline Zwane, who's known as Topsy, also at that first meeting?
Asilungise ke lena uMiss Rosalind Topsizwane okunkosikazi kaMr. Msebenzizwane ingabe ube khona yini kumhlangano lo wokuqala?
nginethemba ukuthi wayekhona ngokuthi babe baningi abantu makuzuzwana.
I do believe, I trust that she was present on the day in question, because there were a lot of people who were present when Mr. Zwane was there or when he came there.
Ngokuthi uNokoko wayekhona uyikhansela.
The councillor by the name of Coco was also there.
Yibo bonke singabafakanga ngenkathi sibhala statement la. Kodwa sibhalise ngabantu babengasesihlokweni babazokhuluma nathi.
Those are the names, Your Worship, which do not appear in the statements because we only mentioned the names of the people who were there to address us, the main speakers of the meeting.
Just for context, that name I again get from a media article we got from the Open Network, which is in the media bundle on page 12.
Lelo gama ke ngilibone kumaphepha lawo amaphepha indaba ezamaphepha ndaba eziphume ephepheni. Does he have?
No, he doesn't have to go. I
Okay.
just want it
The
on
name-
record
Which name?
of Mrs. Rosaline Zwane.
Or igama leli uthi yena ulithole ke odabeni lolo liphuma kumaphepha ndaba.
Yebo ngiyamazi yena kodwa ngalelo langa
Umazi ngokumbona.
ngazi ngokumbona ngiyamazi ngalelo langa yebo ngabantu babe baningi ngiyakhumbula ukuthi naye wayekhona ngokuthi wonke ama meeting wayenzeka wayebakhona.
I know her.
Usebenza kamasipala.
Physically or in person. And I know that in most of the meetings that will be held in the area, Your Worship, and the municipal meetings, she would be present. So I know, and I do believe that she was present in the day in question, though there were a lot of people who attended the meeting.
Well, I don't know if it's going to be important, but you have said two things. You said you believe or trust that he was there, and you have said you know that she was there. It can't be both. It's
Oh.
got to be one. Did you see her at the meeting? Therefore, if you saw her, you know that she was there. If you didn't see her, you may believe that she was there because there were many people who were there, but you don't know. So which of the two is it?
Okuyikona kona yikuphi baba ukukholelwa nokuthemba ukuthi umuntu beke khona ngoba unolwazi lokuthi uyaya bekhona akufani nokuthi umbone umuntu isiqu sakhe manje ngifuna ukwazi ukuthi uye wambona ukuthi ubekhona siqu sakhe noma into ocabangela ukuthi kungenze ukholelwa ukuthi ubekhona ngoba bekunabantu abaningi.
Ukumbona kwami ukuthi nangu uhleli la emithinini uzangambona. That's why ngithi ngiyakholelwa.
The reason my response is I trust or I believe that she was present, Your Worship, it's because I did not see her physically that she was present in the meeting. I'm just believing or trusting that she was part of the meeting without having seen her sitting in the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you, Chairman. Were representatives for the beneficiaries selected at any point in time?
Where are we now? The first, the second?
No, it's a general question.
Okay. Umbuzo ke uthi ke abamele ke laba ukuyibona abazozuza kulento baye bakhethwa ngawo lo mzuzu loyo.
No. Were they chosen at any point in time?
Kube nesikhathi la bekhethwa khona noma ngabe kunini.
Ngalelo langa kwaba nemeeting nje babesitshela ukuthi sizothola ama-shares kanjani masingene ephathini edairy. Ugovernment uzawusithengela inkomo eziwu-10. Umuntu ngamunye ziyongena lapha kwenziwe ibisi.
On that day, this was explained as to, they explained the shares and how are you going to benefit from the whole thing regarding the shares, and that the government will purchase 10 kettles per person so that one can have them contributed into the dairy project.
Thina benkomo zenyama ebovu sidayisa inkomo zethu. Masidayisile mongathatha ingcenye imali wathenge inkomo zabantu ama-shares akhuphukayo lapha bebe.
We were then also advised that those who are having kettles for red meat should sell their kettles so that they can have more money to buy or purchase shares into the dairy project.
Okay, now before you proceed, I think Ms. Tabashe would like to repeat her question. You might have misunderstood the question.
Mr. Dlamini, can I ask you to do this? I will come back to the evidence you've just given.
Ngizoza kulobufakazi lobo obunikezile.
Because
Ngizocela lokho.
because it's important.
Kubalekile lokho okushilo.
At this point in time, I simply want to know if the community of Vrede, Thembalihle Township selected certain persons to represent beneficiaries to this dairy project.
Engifuna ukukwazi kuwo ukuthi ingabe umphakathi walapha eThembalihle eFrede uye waqoka noma wakhetha abantu abazobamela kule project le yeFrede abazomela laba okuyibona abazozuza.
Cha-ke,
No.
cha-ke.
I don't want you to focus on the second meeting. I simply asked the question as a general question.
Angifuni ukuthi ke ugcile mhlambe kuyinhlangano enibe nazo noma yokuqala or yesibili. Ngifuna nje umbuzo nje oyimele lo.
Ukuthi kuye kwakhethwa.
Bayikwakhetwa yini abazomela laba okuyibona abazozuza.
Yes, sabakhetha ngomva kwesikhathi.
Yes, after a while, yes, we did elect the representatives.
Would you be able to recall roughly when that committee was selected?
Ungakwazi ke ukucabangela ukuthi ikomiti leli lelakhethwa nini?
Ikomiti mangikhumbula kahle ikhethwe ngomva kokuthi uAltamer sakathathe ama-ediwate abayise ePitori wayedingeka ePitori okumhlangano wesine.
Ubani gama?
Altamer.
Aldameyer. The
okumhlangano
committee
wesine.
was selected after Aldameyer took our ideas and sent them or took them to Pretoria, and I assume it was now the fourth meeting.
When I look at paragraph 16 of your statement, you mention Ms. Mayor asking for your identity documents. So it's page 5, paragraph 16.
Ngibheka ke laphayana ku page number 5, umqake u 16 uyabona ngithi?
Yebo.
La ukhuluma ngokuthi ke nangu Ms. Mayor uthatha ke umazisi benu ubanikisa ePretoria.
Ya kwaku-Altamer kwaku-Saturday ngalelo langa.
Indeed, it was Ms. Mayor and the day was Saturday.
Maybe it's the convenient time.
Thank you, Chairman.
Does it look like we might go up to 5 o'clock today?
It does, Chairman, if we want to
Yes.
complete both witnesses.
Yeah,
But we have made arrangements for them to
yes.
continue tomorrow if for any reason we cannot
Yes, okay.
conclude today.
Okay. We'll take the lunch adjournment and we'll resume at 2. We adjourn.
So kubeka ngo 2 baba.
Okay.